Yeah.
Good morning. I'm going to call the Board of County Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, September 26, 2023 to order. And our first business is to ask Mr. Robert Bush with Faith Baptist Church to come forward for our invocation, and the Pledge of Allegiance will follow, led by Commissioner Wilkinson. Please rise if you can.
Dear Lord God, we're so thankful that we have the opportunity, Lord, and the freedoms in this country to gather here. Lord, we thank you, Lord, that, Lord, we thank you for your mercy. We thank you for your grace, for your salvation, Lord, for dying for us and rising again, Lord. We just pray that you'd put your blessing, Lord, on this day's activities, on this meeting today. We pray that you'd give them wisdom and understanding. Lord, we pray that there'd be order. We pray that you'd give them softened hearts and yielded wills. We pray, dear God, that things would be accomplished according to your will. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The chair will entertain a motion for approval of the minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the minutes stated in our agenda.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. We're going to move to presentations, and our first one will be presented by Commissioner Harvey, Domestic Violence Awareness Month Proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Putnam County Proclamation number 2023-115, Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Is anyone here for that? Okay, come on up.
Come forward.
You don't want to come? No. Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Whereas domestic violence is a crime that impacts all citizens of Putnam County. And whereas the impact of domestic violence is wide-ranging, taking a dramatic toll on the criminal justice system, law enforcement, the healthcare community, and society as a whole. And whereas each year in Putnam County, an estimated 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men are victims of domestic violence, that would translate to 13,000 individuals affected in our county. And whereas it is vital for our community to support the victims of domestic violence and assist with their grave financial, physical, and psychological losses, and to impose legal sanctions against their perpetrators of personal violence. And whereas Lee Conley House is the only domestic violence center in Putnam County, providing 24-hour services and counseling to victims and their families, and has been awarded certifications through the Florida Department of Children and Families. And whereas the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners urges all citizens to actively participate in and support all programs sponsored by the Lee Conley House, thereby assisting in this elimination of domestic violence in our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of Commissioners of Putnam County, Florida, that October 2023 is designated as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Putnam County to participate in planned activities benefiting the Lee Conley House and its missions to provide shelter and support services to victims of domestic violence and their families, done, ordered, and adopted this 26th day of September 2023. Mr. Chairman, I move this proclamation forward.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it, and motion carries.
Good morning. I am Brenda Bridges. I am the president of the Lee Conley House Board. Interestingly enough, as I sat in the audience this morning, sitting next to Andrea, she said that she was making today a learning experience for her son. So they were out of school, and she wanted to show him what government looked like and how it worked. So you never know exactly who you're sitting to or next to, and when you announced that you were getting ready to read the proclamation, we looked around the room. We didn't see anybody, and I said, okay, come on. As board president and as an advocate for the victims of domestic violence, and on behalf of the Lee Conley House, we thank you for making that proclamation today, and we thank the staff for their hard work and what they do for Putnam County and the victims of domestic violence.
Y'all want to go down or just get up
Whatever you
here?
say.
It's up to you.
Whichever a little bit. There we go. I'm short, so I gotta get between two.
Your son don't want to come up?
You'll be in the paper.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have a proclamation on 4-H week that will be presented by Commissioner Pickens. Is there anybody here today that's come for that proclamation? Please come forward. That's wonderful.
Okay, Putnam County Proclamation number 2023-116, National 4-H Week. Whereas 4-H is America's largest youth development organization, having supported almost 6 million youth across the country thus far, and whereas 4-H has helped over 300 youth in Putnam County during the 2022-23 4-H year to become confident, independent, resilient, and compassionate leaders. And whereas 4-H is delivered by Cooperative Extension, a community of more than 100 public universities across the nation that provide experiences where young people learn by doing on-hand projects in areas including health, science, agricultural, citizenship. And whereas National 4-H Week showcases the incredible experiences that 4-H offers young people and highlights the remarkable 4-H youth in Putnam County, Florida, who work each day to make a positive impact on those around them. And whereas 4-H network of 600,000 volunteers, 3,500 professional providers, caring and supportive mentoring to all 4-Hers, helping them grow into true leaders, entrepreneurs, and visionaries. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Putnam County Board of County Commissioners that Friday, that October 1 through 7, 2023 is designated as National 4-H Week throughout Putnam County, and encourage all of our citizens to recognize 4-H for their significant impact it has made and continues to make, empowering youth with the skills they need to lead for a lifetime. Done, ordered, and adopted this 26th day of September 2023. Mr. Chairman, I approve this proclamation.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. have to speak, Heather.
Thanks. As the Putnam County 4-H agent for Putnam County and UF IFAS, we appreciate that you recognize the youth in our county. And, sorry, I'm pathetic, sorry. The amazing things that they're doing. To come and see them at our county council, which we invite you to do the first Tuesday of every month. We have an officer team with president down to parliamentarian, treasurer, sentinel, inspirational thought leader, and teaching them to get up in front of people to run a business meeting, because one day when you guys empty these chairs out, these are going to be the people that
right.
fill them.
That's right.
And so we appreciate that you recognize our youth and our youth development program and the things that we're doing for them. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bring them up, Heather, we'll get a picture. Let's go down front with the kids. Wait a minute.
Thank you so much.
It's really a cool situation to see people you've known since were these younger children's age come forward and be the leaders of the pack now. Glad you were with us this morning, Heather.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move down the agenda to C and ask Ms. Crone to come forward.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning. Good morning.
I am pleased to announce that Madison Yakel is our Employee of the Month for August of 2023. In her nomination, it was stated that she is a natural leader, she loves training new hires, works overtime, and does an amazing job balancing a family, school, and her work. So congratulations.
After we get a picture, I'd like for all the emergency people to come forward and get a picture with us that's here this morning for this.
Oh, here they come.
But wait. Give us just a second, guys, and let us get one here. Take charge.
All right, now y'all can come.
Now, everybody come forward.
All stage. Oh, we got that, didn't we? Remember that? The boys skated, and the girls skated, and now it's all skate. Come on. Did we? I'll be done. Paul, did you get your tour?
People right in the front where they can see us.
Now I gotta see over.
Way back there in the back. All right, congratulations.
Congratulations.
You don't run
very far, Paul, because when we get done with Fred, we want you back up here again. With Fred in the middle.
Chief Lanier, don't go far.
Fred, they're making you wear a path in the carpet back and forth, aren't they?
Commissioners, administrative staff, audience, citizens, thank you. Today's not a day we were looking forward to. If I could pause time, I don't want September 29th to come upon us. Fred's going to be one of those ones that's hard to replace. He did 50 years in the fire service. As I talked to one of the commissioners this morning, he goes, dang, I was 11 when he started.
That was me, I'm sorry.
The JR wasn't born.
Nowhere close. My dad was still in high school. But what a long career and what a great career. I mentioned it the other night at the penance ceremony with A-Shift that, you know, what a one thing. I mean, a person that dedicated 50 years to either the service of our country, because he worked for NAS Jacks, as was the assistant chief there, to coming back to Putnam County and working for the last 13 years here. Indescribable career. I mean, I might have to ask you guys for probably 3 positions to replace what Fred could do, because, I mean, there was nothing that I've been here yet that you couldn't say that you needed something done, and Fred wasn't the first one to come up and says, I can do that. Whether it's, you know, teaching a fire class or teaching somebody to drive a fire truck to changing a doorknob. So, I mean, there's just nothing in this world that Fred can't do. And we're going to deeply, deeply miss Fred every single day. The encouragement that he gives, the encouragement that he gives the staff. But yet he's still got that side of him that you didn't want to see 50 years ago either. Because there is a serious side of Fred that, you know, that you could tell was the old school instructor in him. And I mentioned it in there because when retirees, that the thing that he probably taught most of those guys that retired fire standards. Because most of the time this is a 25-year career and then 5 and out. Chief's done 2 careers as a fireman. So everything that he's done for us, Fred, I can't say just thank you enough for everything that you've done. Miss Linda for letting us borrow him for the last 13 years. She said this morning, I said, you can't take him from us. She says, well, if you'll feed him for the next 2 years, you can keep him. I said, well, that's a deal, but I don't know what we're going to do with Fred when we're all gone. So, but we do appreciate everything you've done. I told him I'm not letting him retire before at least January so he can complete that 50th year, because he's at like 49 3/4, but I'm going to keep him on the roster till at least January. I'm hoping that he returns back just for a couple days a week just to come see us. But he's just going to be one of those ones that is just deeply, deeply missed, and it's going to be noticed around our county when we don't have Mr. Fred anymore. But, Chief, thank you for the time that you've done, and we all love you. We do have a plaque for Chief. I got it up here in front of the podium. When I walked in this morning, Ms. Laura says, that's a big plaque. And if we want to present this to Chief here for his 2 years of service to the citizens of the state and the 13 years of citizens of our county. So, Chief, thank you so much. Now, y'all, you guys can come back.
And Miss Linda's coming in, so we go to.
So you get the big guy this year. Y'all come gather around. Hey, guys, we got room up here. Come on. Come on.
I'll stand right here behind you.
Good deal. Thank you again for your distinguished service. We're going to recess the Board of County Commissioners meeting and open a public hearing for planning and development at this time. We'll move into the case number REZ 2306. There he is.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services, the rezoning case, REZ 23-000006. As stated, the application is a request to rezone a piece of property. The applicant is Sharon Barnes. Parcel is .66 acres located at 3029 Twig Street, the intersection of Twig and Palm here in Palaca. The current zoning of the property is commercial, professional office, CPO. The request is to rezone to residential single-family R1A to conform with the surrounding zoning in order to sell the property. The .66 acre parcel is located at the southeast intersection of Palm Avenue and Twig Street. Mostly urban reserve land use is surrounding the property with some commercial land use to the northeast of the property. The current zoning designation of commercial professional office does not allow residences, which would make the property harder to sell in a residential neighborhood. It is worth noting that there is a single-family residence established on this property. Residential single-family R1A allows for residences and conforms to the surrounding zoning districts. The area is largely zoned for residential, with a residential mobile home lot to the south and a commercial professional office lot to the northwest. Here we have the aerial of the subject parcel. Here we can see the future land use as urban reserve for the subject parcel and surrounding with some commercial up on the Krill Avenue intersection. Here we can see the zoning. Again, it's residential 1A all around it. The current zoning is CPO. There's some RMH residential mobile home park, a few parcels to the south. The current future land use designation, urban reserve, which is compatible with the proposed residential single-family zoning district, is in place. Pursuant to policy A193A2C, urban reserve land use does allow for residential uses. The current commercial professional office zoning district does not allow for residential uses. Residences are an allowed use in the R1A zoning district. This would also allow the property to conform with the surrounding zoning. Staff is recommending approval of the zoning designation from CPO to R1A as it is consistent with the comprehensive plan and complies with all applicable procedures and requirements of the Land Development Code. It was reviewed by the Planning Commission on August 9th, 2023. with a recommendation for approval for the zoning request. That was a unanimous recommendation as well. I can take any questions.
Any questions of staff at this time? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak for this project, for this zoning? Is there anybody that would like to speak against this zoning? Okay, I will close public comment at this time, and the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of staff recommendations, approval of this application of rezoning application REZ 23-00006, an ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending the official zoning map for Putnam County Incorporated into Article 2 of the Putnam County Land Development Code Ordinance 2005-18, rezoning A 0.66 plus or minus acre partial land from commercial, professional office, CPO to commercial residential, single-family R1A, providing for severability and effective date on case number REZ 23-00006, Barnes, ordinance number 2023-014.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. We're going to move to SD 22-010. Zach?
So Chairman, for the record, we do not have anything prepared for that project. It's already come through Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. Approval for the plat has already been recommended. The agenda item was to be placed on consent agenda whenever it was transmitted to be placed on the BOCC agenda. It was mistakenly put on the public comment. I do have, as a reminder, I do have the plat with me. I can leave with Shannon out front for signatures after the meeting today.
And this has already been reviewed. This is just the formal approval of the resolution.
Correct.
Yeah, the only comment I'd like to make, is there a reason why we couldn't have handled this like we handled budget resolutions? Why couldn't we have brought
No,
the
we-
resolution along with, in case, because it hadn't been passed yet at the last meeting? I was wondering why we had to have this
Separate.
additional step instead of just signing it after the last one, because we approved it already.
We could. So we can look at that as far as just
we-
bringing the resolution in the future for.
If we try to do that in the future, is go ahead and include the resolution and with it, in case it gets approved, we can sign the resolution then, and we don't hold this up for another meeting or two
Yes,
in
sir.
order to do this.
Yes, sir. I'd have to look at the Land Development Code. That might be something we can revise. But yeah, we will make an effort to make it a swifter process.
Right, yeah, anytime we can streamline it, the better off we are, for sure.
Yes, sir.
Is there anybody that would like to speak for or against this case? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment and ask for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move approval of the Moats Family Subdivision SD 22-010, resolution number 2023-117, approving Moats Family Subdivision final plat, resolution of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, approving the final plat of the Moats Family Subdivision, providing for severability and effective date.
We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second, is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. We'll move down to item C, the text amendments to the Land Development Code. Zach?
Thank you, Chairman. For the record, Zachary Baker, Planning and Development Services. This is a Land Development Code text amendment, case LDC 23000001. As a reminder, Florida State Statute 125.664B summarizes this is the first reading of the proposed ordinance for amending language on allowed uses in the Land Development Code. The proposed ordinance is required by state statute to be heard by the Board of County Commissioners twice. One of those hearings is required to be after 5 p.m. on a weekday unless the board, through a majority vote, decides to hold it at a regularly scheduled public meeting. The second hearing on this proposed ordinance is to be scheduled by the Board of County Commissioners. The application by Mr. Michael Smith is requesting an amendment to Article 7, Division 2, Section 45-503E, requesting to revise the minimum utility-based dimensional requirements for legally created lots as defined by the Land Development Code. The subject Land Development Code text amendment proposes to revise the minimum utility-based dimensional requirements for legally created lots. The Land Development Code currently stipulates minimum dimensional requirements for lot area and lot width based on whether the subject lot is serviced by private well and septic, central water and private septic systems, private well and central wastewater systems, and those lot sizes would range from 1 acre, 43,560 square feet, to a quarter acre, 10,890 square feet, and 100-foot lot width to 75-foot lot width, respectively. The current Land Development Code is inconsistent with density allowances listed within the future land use element of the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan and dimensional requirements of zoning districts defined in Table 7.02A of Land Development Code Section 45501. The applicant is making this request to amend the LDC to eliminate utility-based dimensional requirements for all new legally created lots that are serviced by central water and private septic, and new legally created lots serviced by private well and central wastewater. The applicant also requests a modification to LDC Section 45503E1 to reduce the minimum lot size requirements for new legally created lots serviced by private well and private septic systems from 1 acre to 1/2 acre. This item was reviewed by the Planning Commission on August 9th, 2023. However, the motion was approved died due to a vote of 3-3. So here we have, and strike through underline, the applicant's proposal. So in general here, parenthesis E1, the request was to strike 43,560 square feet, replace that with 21,780 square feet, strike 1 acre and replace it with 1/2 acre. I can see here now that that strike through underline doesn't show very well, but we'll see it better later on in the presentation. The applicant then requested to strike all other dimensional requirements for subsections 2 and 3. So staff supported the applicant's LDC amendment, the intent of it, and has proposed an addition that would accomplish the goal of revising the minimum utility-based dimensional requirements of new legally created lots while still providing securities that the health, safety, and welfare of Putnam County citizens would not be diminished, and to align the Putnam County Land Development Code and those requirements established by Florida State Statute Chapter 381. So here we can see the staff proposed changes for this code section, again keeping the intent of this request in mind from the applicant. And here we can see that, to summarize the changes, for private well and private septic, we do agree that a 1/2 acre is sufficient. For central water and private septic system, we suggested a change to 10,890 square feet, 1/4 acre, with a minimum lot width of 75 feet. Where central water and central wastewater are present, staff believes that those minimum lot areas should be as allowed by the zoning district or planned unit development, as well as the lot width as allowed by zoning district or planned unit development. The proposed text amendment was brought forward for staff to review a discrepancy between the Land Development Code, the Comprehensive Plan, and Florida State statutes as it relates to the minimum utility-based dimensional requirements for new legally created lots. Utility-based dimensional requirements have been established to ensure reasonable degradation of sewage materials into the soils and to reduce the risk of groundwater contamination. By adjusting Putnam County's utility-based dimensional requirements to align with those cauterized by Florida State Statute Chapter 381, Infill development can easily be attainable without concern of negatively impacting surrounding properties or property owners. Furthermore, the proposed revision will align with those density requirements established in the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan when denser residential development is permitted. Some findings of fact for this request. Revising the dimensional-based utility requirements would not lessen the dimensional requirements for each zoning district as provided in Table 7.02A of LDC 45501. The proposed text amendment aligns with those dimensional requirements established in Florida Statute 381.0065 parenthesis 4 and does not exceed what is allowed by state statute. The proposed text amendment does not require smaller lots when appropriate infrastructure is in place. It merely provides landowners the opportunity to make greater use of their land. Should property owners desire to own, buy, sell, or develop larger tracts of land, that right would be upheld. The proposed text amendment will not generate residential densities greater than what is already permitted by the Putnam County Comprehensive Plan and will promote residential infill to maximize property utilization and increase development. The proposed text amendment would be applicable for commercial and industrial lots, given the proposed use can fit on said smaller lots, which would promote new niche markets and develop in the suburban and rural areas of the county. For these reasons, staff is recommending approval of the staff-suggested revisions to LDC Section 45503E. As a reminder, at the August 9th, 2023 Planning Commission public hearing, the Planning Commission vote resulted in a 3-3 vote, so there was no official recommendation made to the Board of County Commissioners. I do have, if necessary, some clarifications I can read directly from this report. But other than that, I can answer any questions as well.
Okay, I have one, I guess. Already allow this in part of the land development code, but we just had a conflict between it and the future land use element, is that correct?
So the issue is the future land use categories and some of the denser future land uses, urban service and urban reserve and rural center. We do have the provisions to allow 2 units per acre without community water and community sewer. So in other words, 2 units an acre with well and septic. The land development code stipulates that if it's well and septic, it has to be 1 acre and a minimum lot width of 100 feet. So there's inconsistencies with our 2 documents that we use to govern development.
Okay, so it allows it in the future land use, but it doesn't allow it in our land development code, so we're going to change the land development code if we pass this today to match the future land use element.
That's correct. We're making the LDC consistent with the comprehensive plan.
I just want to make sure I had it. Commissioner Harvey, did you have something, sir?
I do, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This doesn't change any of our platted maps out there at all, right? I mean, our platted parcels that we already have, this just changes if somebody wants to subdivide, correct?
That is correct, yes, sir. This would not change any lot of record, any plat, any parcel that is already in place. Those are either lots of record or they're there. You know, staff will have to deal with those when they come up. This would only allow new developments after this to be, if this were to be approved, it would allow those new developments where the density supports these lot sizes to pursue half-acre lots when private well and private septic are in place.
When you say density supports, what's your definition of that?
So when the future land use designation allows a residential density of 2 units per acre with well and septic system, only in those future land use categories and when the zoning supports half-acre lots would this be applicable. So we wouldn't see, you know, rural center future land use, which allows 2 to 1. We wouldn't see an ag zone property at half an acre because the ag zoning district requires 1 acre and a minimum width of 150 feet. This is going to be advantageous for those pieces of land that are residential 1 zoning, residential 2 zoning. That's pretty much the only 2 residential zoning districts that it would be applicable for.
Good, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, any other questions of staff at this time? Seeing none, is there anybody in the audience today that would like to speak to this issue? Okay, seeing none, I'll close public comment, and the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval to adopt the recommendations of our staff for the adoption of the ordinance, Putnam County Ordinance 2023-015, an ordinance of the County of Putnam, State of Florida, amending Article 7, Development, Designs, and Improvement Standards, Division 2, dimensional requirements of the Putnam County Land Development by amending Section 45-503, parentheses E, supplemental provisions, providing for severability and providing for an effective date, LDC 23-000001.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Next, we're going to move into public comment on agenda items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect the board will engage in debate or deliberation about matters. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comment cards are conveniently placed in the room entrance and should be filled out prior to the meeting and given to the clerk, actually who sits on my left, your right of the podium. Okay, and I have some cards this morning.
New business.
Both of these are for new business item 4, so they're not for public comment. So is there anybody would like to speak public comment on agenda items? Seeing none, I'll close public comment and move on to the consent agenda and Commissioner Adams' Act. Commissioner Harvey.
I have none, sir.
Commissioner Pickens.
I have none.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
I have none.
And I have none.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of consent agenda items A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. And we'll move to new business. The first item is the letter of support for the Putnam County School District for the Agriculture and Consumer Services Development Grant application. We were asked to bring this to the board for a letter of support and a resolution, I believe, which is included in your packet. And basically, they're trying to get a grant from Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services to redo the ag farm out at on Slaughter Road, I believe it is.
Cricket Avenue out in Spring.
Yeah, but I guess Slaughter's one road. Okay, so been there many times as a youth, so I support this project. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak for or against this one? Seeing none, Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval that we, number 1, sign the letter of support, give you authority to do that. Number 2, approve resolution for 2023-121, resolution indicating Putnam County Board of County Commissioners support of the John Eubanks Agricultural Education Lab project.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. The next one is the application for consideration for a new MSBU on West Lake, the West Lake area. Who's going to take this one? I know just enough about this one to make me dangerous. I've talked about it about 3 times now, I think, or 4.
Yes, sir.
Different ways, shapes, or forms.
They've readdressed their map a couple times with Mr. Poprosky, and what we have here is we have we'll call it a developer that wants to come in and form an MSBU. I don't know if that's really the context that an MSBU was intended for, and that's just my opinion. I think MSBU is for lots that are already developed to make it better for citizens and the citizens group that's there. However, what we see here, I believe, is a developer that's got 290 some of these lots in the first phase of this that's asking for an MSBU in front of undeveloped lots. So I don't know how that's supposed to go. And I mean, that's kind of why we're here today having this discussion, because that should be developed property. So we're going to go out and put a bunch of dollar in an undeveloped piece of property and hoping one day that it'll develop. I think we saw a case last week where a developer came in and decided that they were going to pave the county, but in this case they're wanting the county to develop. So this, kind of here this morning to have that discussion. The other issue I have with it is it's 200 and some, whatever the votes are, it doesn't matter if there's an opposing side here. So that kind of makes a difference in my opinion as well, because you start looking at what the other people in the area have, even if they were all against it, doesn't weigh enough vote to get to make a change. So that's kind of why we're here today, to see what direction you guys want us to travel.
We've heard about this before several times, and it's come back to us. Each time it changes a little and comes back to us. And I'll just tell you right up front, I'm not for this. I don't think this was ever the intention of the MSBU process, was for the county to front money to a developer to go in and pave the roads in his subdivision and then turn around and get reimbursed somewhere in the future, maybe. So I just can't, I think that any good program that you can come up with, sooner or later, you're going to find a loophole in it that's not what it was intended to be in the first place. And I think this is the epitome of it. I can't go along with this. I don't think it's in any citizen's best interest in any way that I can tag it to. So, Commissioner Harvey?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think you're not completely wrong on that subject. And, you know, when you have 213 people affected and 131 are owned by one person, then you're really imposing a fee, a lot of money on the other people. I'm not saying it doesn't merit something to be done out there, but I don't think this is the right thing. My comment is more to what I've been kind of facing, that we destroyed a paved road called Main Street. Yes, I'm the commissioner that turned pavement back into dirt. But we were spending tens of thousands of dollars a year fixing potholes on a road that had no base and about an 1/8 inch of asphalt, and people were not being able to drive on it anyway. So this board, the previous board, went out there and we hired a company to come in there and mill that road up, and it's maintainable right now. So yeah, I'll go down as the first commissioner, probably in Florida, take a paved road back to dirt. But believe me, you weren't driving on that road anyway out there. And it was put out there by a developer to sell those lots. Make no mistake about that. But when you do the simple math, Mr. Chairman and fellow board members and audience, you know, you got $1.2 million approximately in costs, which turns out to be about $5,600 per parcel. And when you do that over a 10-year period, you're looking almost $600 a year assessment. That's a big cost. And again, we're imposing. Now, if we had 213 different parcel owners out here, and we had a majority of them wanting to go forward, I'd be singing a different song. But I'm not going to sing this song. And it just doesn't, out there, doesn't make sense for me. I like the idea of pavement. I like the idea of developing. I like the idea of combining lots and building homes. I like all that. But I don't like our taxpayers to be saddled with that cost. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
With no vote, with no voice in it. Commissioner Adams,
Well, wouldn't we still put it out to all the citizens for a vote? And we still have final say, even if the vote came back 100%, we could still say no. So I don't see any reason not to move it forward and send it out to all 213 people. And if the majority of the other people say yes, I think we should do it. I think this area is an area that's going to be dead and stagnant if something doesn't happen in order to get pavement out there. Because you're not going to have anyone that ever comes and combines all those lots together. It's not going to be used for agriculture. It's not going to be used for any other purpose. We're putting a fire station out just past this location. I lived in this location for the first 2 years I was in the county. It's a great location, but it's stagnant because no one's going to do anything there unless there's some pavement and some reason to start something. I don't know that the MSBU language says that we're supposed to analyze who owns the properties within the MSBU. I just don't believe that it says that. I get it because we happen to know who it is. If it came from a different source, we wouldn't be talking like this. I think we should move it forward to send it out to the, I mean, it's not that costly to send it out to 213 people and see what they say, the rest of them. I mean, I think that allows them the opportunity to have the voice to say yes or no, along with the quote-unquote developer, which I don't think, whether he's a developer or not, really should play a part in this, but that's just my opinion.
The problem is, unless I'm misunderstanding this, is our current rules state that if 50% plus one comes back of the property owner, so that one person has only got to vote for himself and his own lots, and the rest of them get no voice and representation whatsoever.
I thought my understanding from the attorney when we discussed putting that language in, though, that we still, in the end, could vote no as the 5 commissioners. Is that true or not?
It's true that regardless of what it is, that's a tool that you consider, but to send out letters at this point, there's not a subsequent review process that I'm aware of. I mean, this is whether or not you either grant the petition or deny the petition to go forward with the MSBU.
Okay,
And
but we
obviously-
could decide to send letters instead and say no, but we'll send letters out, couldn't we not?
No, I don't know when you would say no. Once you send the letters out, you're telling people essentially what the cost is going to be.
Okay. In the past, we haven't established a cost in the letters, so I mean, that was the argument that people had at other MSBU's when we sent out for paving, is we couldn't say the cost because we didn't have a real estimate. So what's different about this one?
Well, I mean,
I guess that's for JR, really.
in most places, your developer's the one that provides the roads. I mean, that's really the incentive for them, and then they pass along the cost to the people that they're selling the lots to. So I've never seen it where a developer has the county pave the road. I mean, you can look up in Clay County, 220. 220 got 4-lane by Eagle Harbor between 17 and 21. Wasn't paid for by the county.
So you're saying if we sent out letters, if we ignored this and we just said we're going to send out letters, all 213, we still wouldn't have the ability as a board to say no? That's my real question is, if we decided to ignore this and say we're going to send out letters, all 213, to get feedback from the other 100-some lots or 90-some lots, whatever it is, that was my understanding before, like when we send them out to the other MSBU's, like we send out to Bumpy Trail and that, I mean, that one came back at 2% or whatever, so that wasn't going to happen.
You're right as far as what the board's authority is. I guess what I'm trying to figure out is what's going to change that you don't already know. You know.
I want to know the opinion of those other people that haven't been talked to, the people that we're concerned about.
And I'm sorry, it's in the agenda item too, but I mean, the other consideration that I know that the board's going to take into consideration is that, you know, a majority of the developed parcel owners now are delinquent on their taxes, and this would add an additional financial burden to them.
I don't know that we can do anything about that either. I mean, that's.
No, no, you can't do anything about the fact that they do or don't pay their taxes, but to add on to that, just understand that there's.
And we could have put the assessment over 20 years, is that correct? Then it'd be $300-some, which is less considerably.
I think we could change it to do whatever we wanted to do. I just don't know if you have enough interest from 3 commissioners to get that done. The problem that I'm having, usually when we send out letters, it's to find out if we have a majority of the people in a neighborhood that would consider an MSBU. We know we have a majority here because they're all one person who has asked for the MSBU. But like I said earlier, that's the epitome of a loophole in the system. There's no way that the county should come in and pay for a developer to build the roads. It should be the other way around. The developer should build their own roads and build the roads into it too. I mean, they should go above, not ask the county to do it and then borrow the money or pay or make the other people in the subdivision that don't even have a voice in the matter to come in and participate in the cost of paving the road. If they want it done, then they need to come in and petition, and then we'll send out the letters and go through it for them. But that's not what's happened here. A developer doesn't want to pay his fair share, is the way I look at it. So
I don't see it that way because the developer's going to pay his per lot, whoever owns it, right, when he sells it, whoever owns the property, whether it's Lot A that's owned by, let's say I own a lot there, or it's Lot B that's owned by developer Sean or whoever the person is, right? When they sell that lot, that cost goes on to that next person too. It's not,
But the developer.
And then we also get a larger tax base because they built a home on that property and all the other things that come with it. If we want this land out there to remain dead forever, we'll continue to not be able to do anything. We're never going to get enough dirt to pave money to pave all those roads out there. I think this is a start to start building a community out there. This is where it should be centralized. If we had the dirt to pave money, I would say let's pave it ourselves anyway. So that's the point. We just don't have the money to do it. This is an opportunity where maybe we could, and I want to hear from those other 90 residents, and that's all I'm asking for.
Well, I don't think it's fair to ask all those residents that haven't asked for the road to be paved to share in the cost to the developer of paving them roads.
I don't think it's fair not to hear whether they want to do it or not. I mean, if you polled all 90-some houses.
Commissioner Harvey, do you have something to add, sir?
I do. Along those lines, I think, again, back to my original comment, if we had 213 different people, I would feel a lot better putting the taxpayers of Putnam County at risk on this project. But rest assured, you're going to, if this development doesn't go through and we spend $1.2 million, our clerk finances it with some kind of a bond. It's over 10, 20, 15 years. I don't care the number there. These properties, some of these will sheet back to the county. And then we're going to be selling them at a minimum bid of over X amount of dollars to recoup our money, if anybody's interested in them out in that area. So I think it's a big risk on our taxpayers, and right now I'm just not for it. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Pickens.
Yeah, and I agree with what's been said. And Paul, I see your side also, but I don't know that this program is intended to be used like this. I truly don't. So I'm not in favor of it.
Okay, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we deny and follow staff recommendations not to move forward on this Westlake MSBU.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I'll just say this. I mean, I think we're doing a disservice to those other 90-some parcels in not asking their opinion. Most of them aren't even aware that this is a possibility.
Well, I hope that if they decide that they want to come in and petition for an MSBU and not the developer, then, you know, this is no different than somebody buying a piece of property, cutting it up and saying, we want you to pave the road for us. I don't see any difference in that.
The majority of our citizens that live in MSBUs don't even know they're an MSBU, don't know what an MSBU is. They have the fee on their taxes. They're completely not aware. We go to MSBU meetings where there's thousands of people that are in the MSBU, and we're lucky if 5 to 10 people show up. These people out there don't know what an MSBU is. And like I said, the way they would know and the way they'd be aware that the possibility to pave is if we send out a letter. So that's why I'm against this. I just want to send out a letter and see what their opinion is. But I obviously don't have the vote, so thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
4-1, passes. Okay, the motion passes for denial. Next, we're going to go to the policy renewals for risk management. Who's doing that one?
Barbara. She's on her way up.
Yeah, I know, but it says on there for business Melrose Park and the Christmas parade. Those are the last 2 items.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's that time of year when our insurances renew, and this is the crux of them. But there are some decisions that need to be made on some options of deductibles. We did have a significant increase in the property coverage, which due to the facts in Florida, one thing that the League of Cities did is they have offered us some options to reduce the premium by giving us some deductible options for named storm increase in the deductible. The standard deductible that we have is $50,000. For a named storm, the standard is 5%. If we want to reduce the premium of the property, we do have the option of going up to 7.5% or 10% for a deductible, but it's named storm only. It wouldn't affect if we had a fire or a tornado. They also did a few other things with their property coverage. We have no co-insurance with what they've done now. So if something is underinsured, we won't be hit with a penalty. They've changed it to a blanket, so all of our values for everything are in one pot. So that's much more desirable in the event that we have a claim. But yes, there was a rate increase, and also some of our values increased. So we have 3 options on the named storm deductible.
Commissioner Hart, are you done?
With that section, unless y'all have any questions.
Well, I think Commissioner Harvey has one.
Mr. Chairman, I spent a lot of time with Barbara yesterday going over this, and on our first policy there, as you see the $762,000 and the blanket, that's very important, this co-insurance. So for those of you not in the insurance business, it's very important that it's a blanket now. But the named storm, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm glad we can have this discussion because we do have reserves that we've been saving up on. We can save almost $140,000 with a 10% named storm property deductible. I think that's a very prudent way to go on that first one right there. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I agree.
Okay. Yeah, I think we need to. I think we need to kind of take them one at a time and discuss them and decide what we're going to do. So what, the first one would be the item at the top. Is that what you're saying, Commissioner Harvey?
It is.
Up here.
Yes, sir.
And so, is it going to, let me ask you this, is it going to change? You're the insurance expert sitting up here on the committee. I mean, really,
Don't know about expert.
I've bought a lot of it, but I don't know if I'm pretty good at comp and some of the workers' comp and stuff, but I'm not so good at this. So, what is our options, Julianne? You knew you had to have something ready. You knew I wasn't going to let you just sit there and not say something.
Appreciate it, Commissioner.
I'm sure.
In each of the options that you have before you, I believe that based on our financial capacity at this time, that you are safe in taking on the higher risk.
That's right.
That being said, to some degree, these decisions truly come down to you all as a board and your preference for risk aversion. I do not believe that we are putting the county in a financial liability or vulnerable spot by taking the 10% premium for a named storm.
Okay. When the named storm comes up, with it being the county and not some private individual that's doing this, in most situations, wouldn't it be covered by a FEMA declaration and make us whole on a lot of this?
It could be.
I know that's
I
just
can't
a
predict that.
possibility.
Right. I can't tell you what would fall when an instance happens. I can tell you what ultimately then would be covered by FEMA. But it is possible.
So you recommended taking the 10%?
I do.
We make that in a motion. Let's do this at least.
Okay.
Write this off a little at the time in case it changes.
Mr. Chairman, on our first bullet, Florida Municipal Insurance Trust for property, auto, inland marine, crime bond coverage, I recommend that we do the 10% named storm property deductible that saves us $139,995 in premium.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so, Mr. Adams, act your lights lit. Would you like to say something?
No.
Okay.
I was just going to agree with Julianne before.
Excuse me?
I was just going to agree with Julianne before.
Okay.
I agree with Ms. Julianne's statement on this subject.
She'll never not let you agree with her today.
It doesn't happen all the time.
I hear that. Okay, so,
Mr. Chairman, I move that we also approve the next bullet, Florida Association of Counties Trust liability of $361 $850.
Before I ask for a second on that, could I ask you a question?
You may.
Are you going to approve all the rest of them?
Well, the next one we got, why don't we do, yeah, this one is our Florida Municipal Trust Port Authority property, and that's given us a discount option there also. And then we have the bottom one has a discount option.
Okay, so what you're saying is the Florida Association's County Trust Liability and the Florida Association County Trust Liability Port Authority, those two?
Those two, yes, sir. Move approval.
For which number? There's 3 choices in that too.
No, just these two don't have any choices.
It shows 313, 361.
Yeah, it
What
does.
are the difference between those choices?
There was last year.
Those were
and what
last
was
year's.
budgeted
Oh, okay.
and what the amount is.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
I move approval.
Okay, so we have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on those two? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, now we're going to move to the trust, Commissioner Harvey.
This one's a little different. Barbara and I discussed it yesterday. This is concerning just our port property. Okay, so right now we have a premium renewal of $14,916, which includes a 5% named. We can go up to 7.5 named storm or 10%. Now, the only thing that concerns me, and it's not that big of a concern because we do have reserves to handle this, but it is on the river. So there could be an attempt, it's 2 buildings on the river. So it could be a little more wind damage, if you will, but if FEMA, we've got some unknowns with FEMA, named storm, but we still save almost $3,000 by taking on a little bit more risk, and I think it's well worth the appetite there.
Well, I understand $3,000 is not a little bit of money, but you're talking about 3 roof panels blowing off one of them buildings, and you've eaten into that. So I'm not so sure that, I understand trying to save the $140,000, but I don't know if it's worth trying to save $3,000 or even $1,600 to not have to basically double your liability on your insurance policy. So we're talking $14,900 and full boat with the 5%. So I don't know that it's worth a little bit of extra money on this particular one to just leave it at the 5%.
And we had that discussion yesterday. That was one of our topics.
So I have a question. And
Yes, Commissioner Adams,
currently, the front building that's closest to the river, we're renting, correct? What type of insurance do we require them to have? Because that would help in my decision. Are they just having liability for themselves, or are they?
I don't have the lease, Commissioner, with us today to look at that, but I can get that information.
Because I know there was
But I'm
something
sure
in there
it's
that
somewhere
carry
around
insurance,
$1 million
but
policy.
I don't know if it was on our building.
I don't think it's on our building. It would be the liability.
Yeah.
I believe you're correct,
Liability
Chairman.
on the contents
Commissioner.
covered.
I was curious. I just remember something that there was
Have
a
an owner
section.
interest in it, you can't carry on.
Right. To me, I could go either way on it.
I'm fine with it's a risk that we would have to take, but I'm good with just keeping the policy renewed at that 14,916, if that's the pleasure of the board.
Is that a motion?
It is, sir.
we have a motion to keep the 5% on that one. Is there any second?
Second it.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, the other ones are the policy managers for fuel storage, tank liability, Coggins insurance for VFIS accident sickness coverage, Gallagher Bassett for workers' comp, Florida Sheriff's workers' comp program for sheriff's workers' comp, and Hunt insurance for catastrophic inmate medical insurance. I recommend that we approve all those at the proposed rates.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, the last one is our Hartford through Hunt for statutory death benefits. Do believe that since our reserves are not fully, but we have a healthy reserve, that we could go ahead and pay our 2-year policy and save about $2,000 on that. So I look forward to that. So
Is
I
that a
recommend that,
motion?
yes, sir, I recommend that we pay the 2-year prepaid installment of $39,126, which saves us $3,172 from the annual policy.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? None, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Julianne, are you gonna need to do a budget change of some kind to pay this additional monies?
We will, but given that the renewals came in so late, the budget has already been set and advertised, approved by DOR. So the budget amendment will likely come in the first quarter or the second quarter of next fiscal year when we'll make an adjustment.
Okay, and that must for the additional insurance premiums that we didn't budget for because they even came in higher than we had assumed they would. That will come to general reserves next year.
Either general reserves or the insurance fund reserves, depending on where we actually end our fiscal year this year. So it is possible our claims are going to end less than what we originally projected. And if we have those dollars in the insurance fund reserves, we would look there first.
Thank you
Yes, sir.
for that clarification. Ms. Shepherd, do you have anything else to add this
No,
morning?
not unless y'all have any questions.
I'm good. Anybody have questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move down the list to the administration item for the Bonnie Melrose Lighted Christmas Parade. I have 2 speaker cards this morning, one from Mr. Rush and one from Mrs. Blizzard, okay? I'm not sure which of these y'all want to talk on. There's 2 different items on the agenda, so one of them is the Bonnie one, and I think that's
You've got
what...
her hand raised.
Is that the one you, okay, we're going to hear that one now if you'll come forward. And I'm thinking the other one is for the next one on the list, from Mr. Rush. You want to talk to both? Okay, well, as soon as she's done, I'll invite you up. If you'd give your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Maggie Blizzard. I live at 6022 Dogwood Lane, Melrose, Florida. I'm just passing on an opinion, and as we know, everybody has one. My husband is a retired police officer from the city of Fort Myers. The city of Fort Myers hosts the largest nighttime parade in the state. He worked that parade for over 20 years. Nighttime parades are a lot of fun. There's many more logistical concerns on a nighttime parade. His opinion as a law enforcement officer is that 26 and 21 do not have enough lighting, public safety for a nighttime parade. The staging areas for the parades are even bigger. So I'm just passing on that opinion. Thank you.
Rush. If you'd state your name and address for the record, please, sir.
Hello, I'm Joseph Rush. I'm at 6220 Dogwood Lane.
You can pull that up there.
Thank you. I'm here primarily to speak on the second issue, but the 2 issues are closely related. When these issues came up over the past year or 2 or more, I, this past year, went around and did a survey. There are many people who, different sides of this. There aren't 2 sides to this issue. There's like 5 sides to this issue. And I surveyed quite a number of the local business people. Iron Turtwilliger, trouble with that last name, owner and operator of Blue Water Bay in Melrose. He in particular made some nice comments. He was hoping to be here today. And I have a form that he filled out, a questionnaire. But mostly he complained that he's very in favor of a daytime parade. He said the Saturday night parade over the past 2 years has cost him over $6,000 in lost business. Customers who were at the restaurant had difficulty leaving. Those that had reservations couldn't get there for their reservation. And thirdly, people who called in to-go orders and tried to come by and pick them up could not pick them up. So he says he lost $6,000. His waitresses made almost nothing in tips that night. So he and a few other people in town, but he was one of the most outspoken people, that the nighttime closing of State Road 26 is a major problem for his business. So I just
Chairman, I don't mean to interrupt, but wouldn't it be normal protocol if he has a document that he provides it to the board through our process so we could all see it? I mean, he's referencing something that we don't have. We don't have it in email. Could you email it to us at least? That's normally the. Right.
So, yes, I have the paper that he gave me and signed. If you want, I can give that. Otherwise, I understand what constitutes hearsay evidence or whatever. But I have surveyed a number of people, and there is a concern, I think a legitimate concern that we can all see, that closing State Road 26 could have a serious negative impact on businesses. And from my discussions and evidence, that seems to be supported. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Mr. Adams, did you have something to add, or was that from our?
That was it. I just procedurally thought that we usually make people give her the record and pass it out to everyone to see it.
Well, if he turns it in, that's correct, but if he decides not to turn it in, that's up to him. So, thank you. I'm sure glad you're here. I need supervision. I've been the first to admit it for years. So anyhow, the first one here, what they're asking for is not crystal clear to me. They're asking to close State Road 26 and State Road 21 on December the 16th, but it doesn't have a time on there. So they're saying that they don't mind the daytime parade, they mind the evening parade. Is it somewhere else in the packet?
Yes, sir. It's under the Melrose Patriot letterhead, the next page on your agenda, right there from 6 to 7.
Was it dark at 6 to 7?
Yes, it is. Very, very dark.
All right, Commissioner Harvey, did you have?
I do, Mr. Chairman. This one gives me heartburn. I enjoy a nighttime parade as much as anybody, and thank God that the town of Interlaken, we do it inside the town of Interlaken. I've always said that. And even then, some of our staff members have been there. It's a little scary at times.
No, it's a lot scary.
But it's a real confined area, and the town assumes the liability. So with that in mind, this is really dark. It is a very congested road. 26 and 21 in both directions, north and south from that intersection, are busy. We do have law enforcement. They've signed off. They've got a plan. I feel a little bit better of it. But this, if someone got hurt, let me assure you that the DOT form, they're held harmless. So this comes back on the taxpayers of Putnam County to be whenever we do things like this, and what's our appetite for the risks that we have. I enjoy a nighttime parade as much as anybody, but I have my concerns, but I will be in support of it because I do believe that law enforcement, they've changed some of the routes, they've cleaned up some things. If they can maintain what they're saying they can do here, I'm not so opposed. But I was contacted by Mr. Twilliger. Also, I was contacted by Wayne at Friars, and they both have lost sales. They both have said that publicly. And, you know, one thing that bothers me, when we hear small business owners who talk about losing sales, and this is just my pet peeve, so if you will allow me, Mr. Chairman, this might be their profit for the week. Saturday night might be the profit that they've been holding on to all week long, and they paid all their expenses Monday through Friday, and this is where the owner gets to take a paycheck home. Those of us who are in business have written paychecks that we've never cashed before, and people don't understand that, and sometimes that you just write a check and you leave it there because you don't have enough money to cash it in the bank, and your employees are far more important than you are. And you look forward to that day that you can cash that check. And that's a concern of mine. But I do want to say that I support this, but I have asked the question to both groups about insurance, because again, that's my field, as also the chairman of the Florida Association of Counties Trust, our self-insured program. If someone did get hurt, this is under the the purview of the county and under our policy. So I'll say that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
So, sorry, and I just wanted to clarify one thing. So I did submit a letter to the Department of Transportation in support, but it's contingent. So the Sheriff's Office budgets and handles, staffs one Christmas parade for every town: Crescent City, Willaca, Interlochen, Melrose, Palaca. This is the second parade for this, so our approval is contingent upon that they prepay and fund for off-duty deputy sheriffs. So I don't know that that's occurred yet, and that bill is estimated to be somewhere around $1,200 to $1,400 this year for the number of deputies that they'll need at their off-duty rate. So if that doesn't occur, then we will withdraw our letter of consent to the Department of Transportation, because we just don't budget to handle 2 Christmas parades in one town. We encourage the 2 groups to get together, try to work out some differences, and hold one phenomenal Christmas parade, but it didn't work, so we're back to 2 again. So I just wanted to clarify that we do have a contingent letter in with DOT, and we'll have to see where that falls in the coming weeks.
So, okay, that was actually my next question. My next question was, is we have the 2 Christmas parades, item D and item E on the agenda. One of them's daytime and the other one's nighttime.
Yes, sir.
And they can't, I'm not very politically correct here, so I'm just gonna have to say it. They can't get along good enough to pick what day they're gonna have a damn parade on? Or if they want,
I don't believe they can, from my experience in the community.
So,
That's just my honest take and interpretation of the
Well, they're not
situation.
here, aren't
And
well, I'll tell it to their face. When have you not known me not to say something? We're on television.
So,
So the problem here is that one wants it in the daytime, one wants, is it on the same day, but 2
no, and my light's lit, so if you give me the floor, I'll speak on it.
Please.
I don't think the difference between the groups really matters that much. I've participated in both these parades, either as an audience member or as someone that's driving in the parade, and I've never felt, and I've had my kids on floats in both parades, I've had my kids on the side in both parades. I never felt that they were at risk because it was nighttime or daytime. I thought both events are great, first of all, so both groups put on a great event. And I fully support this as well as the daytime parade, so I'll say that outright right now. I think as far as the 2 business owners, and those are 2 of the businesses I frequent the most with my personal money, because they're the ones that are closest to my home. They're going to build a Tootsie's place closer to me, so maybe that'll be good. So I think that it would behoove them, and that would be my advice to them, and I'll even go talk to them, because I love both their businesses, to utilize that as an opportunity to advertise their business in a way, because literally there's hundreds of extra people in the community that aren't always there during this, and the sheriffs from other communities come and are in that parade, because Melrose is that interesting 4 corners. So we have participation from other law enforcement agencies as parade entries, I guess is the word. So I love both of the events. I'm all for both of them.
I'm not against it either. I'm just trying to figure out why they can't have one. Joe, who would you decide pays the $1,400? Do you split it between the 2 parades, or do you make one of them? I mean, how do you decide which one of them has to pay and which one of them doesn't?
The Downtown Merchant Parade is the historical, long-standing parade, so we have always supported that one. When the second one popped up, then we asked them to help fund theirs.
So the second one is the nighttime lit one?
The Bonnie Melrose is the newer of the 2. The next one down on your agenda is the historic, long-standing Melrose Parade.
Okay. All right, so if we were to approve this, then we need to approve it contingent upon that they agree to pay the sheriff's department that expense, correct?
By a certain time, I would imagine, that we know in advance, you know.
Yeah, I think so. You need a timeline on it.
Okay. Commissioner Adams, did I just not turn your
Yeah,
light
you
off?
just didn't turn me off. But I'm willing to make that motion if you want me to.
Okay.
I make a motion that we approve the Bonnie Melrose Parade as presented, with contingent upon receiving, the sheriff's office receiving, is it a deposit, Joe, or is it a fee? How do I describe that? Receives the off-duty rate as the sheriff's department put forward to DOT within 30 days.
In its entirety.
In its entirety.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Now, keep in mind, even if all we're approving is that I sign the letter of support, because it's got to go to DOT for them to, to be approved. So the motion should probably say that maybe within 2 weeks of when DOT approves them to do it, because we're not approving, we're just signing a letter of support is all we're doing today.
Okay.
DOT's got to give them the final approval.
So contingent upon DOT's approval as well?
Yeah, within 2 weeks after DOT
Are you willing to
approves.
amend the second?
I'll amend the second.
And I'll amend the first contingent upon DOT's final approval.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. You have some discussion?
Yes, sir. What we'll do, staff will take direction from the board's motion here today and amend the letter that will go on for your signature.
Okay. All right, well, we need to get it out to them quickly as possible because that date's coming and we don't want to hold them up if the board wants to do it. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the letter being sent to DOT. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, the next item on the list. Joe, did you want to talk about this one too? All right,
Don't you love his shirt, Mr. Chairman?
you betcha.
This was a gift from Clayton. You don't know Clayton.
I do know Clayton.
I can't believe you're here. No, everybody knows Clayton anyway, and I did a lunch giveaway, and this was to clearly identify me as I was knocking on doors. The daytime parade, I'm the president of the Melrose Business and Community Association. I'm also the chairman of the Christmas parade. I've been doing it for several years now. And we try to coordinate it with Melrose Elementary School. Their safety patrol marches with us. For the past couple of years, I've been very pleased. What is a parade without a marching band? We've had the QI Roberts band the past few years, and I just got a message from them, what day is the parade this year? So apparently they're coming back. Both groups have told us they can do daytime parades, they can't do nighttime parades. This whole issue has come up over the past few years, and it was hoped that we could meet and work it out amongst ourselves. I worked very hard meeting with all sorts of people in the community, as I said, including the people from the Melrose Patriots. But the more I reflected on this, the more that I realized that the MBCA is a player on a field, and they're a player on the field, and we're being asked to referee it, and you don't ask the football players to referee themselves. There's certain people who are sitting in the role of referee, or think of it as the commissioner of the baseball league. So if we have any commissioners, they are the ones who have to play referee and decide. And we're not even talking about in the same game. We're talking about two different games. We coordinate our parade also with Keystone Heights. They have a nighttime parade the same day. So floats come to Melrose, do the daytime parade, and then on. So we also coordinate, Melrose Elementary has their breakfast with Santa Claus that morning. And after that, they all come over to the parade. So it's quite a number of events all blend together. We want a daytime parade. The other group is very enamored of having a nighttime parade. So it's really two separate questions. Do we want to do lunch, and do we want to do lunch, and do we want to do dinner? And I'm interested in lunch, and other people are interested in dinner, and I don't have a dog in the night. I'm having a square dance that night. I have third Saturdays. Come on out to the Dancing Fish and do-si-do your neighbor, swing your partner. So we were asked to referee this, but the more I reflected on it, it's not our place to be refereeing this. We want to have a daytime parade. Melrose Elementary wants it. QI Roberts wants it. The businesses seem to want it. And so, by golly, with the permission of this group, move forward and have another Christmas parade. I wanted to address the why couldn't these two groups work it out amongst themselves. It's because we're talking about two totally different things. They want a nighttime parade, we want a daytime parade. You can do both, you can do neither, or you can do one or the other. But I am here very in favor of the daytime parade, and that is what I'm hoping Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say, Dr. Rush, I appreciate what you're saying there, and that's spot on. They are two separate events, and this commission should decide on each of them individually, so thank you.
Well, again, I think all we're doing is approving the chair to sign a letter of support to DOT for the road closure. So the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move approval of the letter for the road closure, and it's also Resolution 2023-124, read by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes, the motion carries. Okay, Milrose is going to be supported by a letter for both Christmas parades to DOT. Okay. All right, next we're going to go down to the code enforcement case. We moved you all the way up to number 5, and it still got an hour and a half to get to you, Thomas.
Mr. Chairman, before, Thomas, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ward, can I get a point of privilege? Sure. Last meeting, Mr. Ward, I mentioned your name at the end. You had to leave before we could talk about it. But this gentleman standing right here in front of you, him and his staff and the volunteer workers out there have worked tirelessly on behalf of Melrose Library. And the work that he does to represent our library out there is impeccable. And you never hear a complaint. You never hear a complaint at all. And they just work within their means to get things done, and they provide ample financial support to our Melrose Library. So, Mr. Chairman, if you don't mind, on behalf of our board, thank you for all your hard work, and please give our extension to the volunteers also. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. No problem.
Thank you.
Okay, Thomas.
Code case is 2016-320. Address is 291 Q Lake Drive. Property owner's name is PennyMac Loan Services, LLC. The violation was care premises. Original fine amount was $53,797. Total cost of enforcement action was $2,200. The property owner has recently purchased the property and is now compliant, requesting a fine reduction. If the board approves, we recommend the reduced fine to be paid within 90 days.
Okay, is there anybody in attendance who would like to speak for or against this case? Seeing none, the chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve code case 2016-00320 of the amount of $2,200 if paid within 90 days.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it, motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Thomas. And we'll move into appointments. Commissioner Adams Act. Commissioner Harvey.
I have none, sir, but I do want to report that I'm getting close to somebody on the Planning Commission after all these years. Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Pickens.
I have none.
Commissioner Wilkinson.
I have none.
And I have none today. Next, we're going to move into public comment on miscellaneous items. This portion of the agenda is designed to allow citizens an opportunity to bring matters to the attention of the board. It is not reasonable to expect that the board will engage or debate or deliberation about matters on which the board has received no prior information as part of the agenda. Please limit your time to 3 minutes. Public comment cards conveniently placed at the meeting room entrance and should be submitted prior to the meeting to the deputy clerk who sits to my left, your right on the podium, Ashley. Thank you, Ashley, for raising your hand. And I don't have any additional cards. Is there anybody today that would like to speak? Please come forward, Mr. Minor. Is your right hand broke, David? You can't fill out a card? Or?
I was debating on whether you were going to say something. I want to thank the commission for the building and zoning has changed a lot in the last few years. I'm sorry I'm not here to gripe about something, but I want you to know that it has changed a lot. I've gone in there to get electrical permits, a couple other things, walked through the door, had a lot more progressive feeling about it, and I just want to thank you and let you know that. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thank you.
And I agree with you, David. As you well know, I do this for a living outside this chamber, and
I think they have made great progress, especially in the last few months. I really do. Looking for further progress, but I'm just telling you, I think they're doing very well compared to previous times. Also, is there anybody else in attendance that would like to speak? Okay. I'll close public comment then, and we'll move to the Honorable Matt Reynolds.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I have nothing to update the commission with today. Thank you.
Okay. The Captain Commando, Administrator Suggs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Just a couple of things this morning. One is I noticed Mr. Killebrew sitting in the back, and it's good to see you today. And just a shout.
Good to see you. Is it always not good to see him, or is it today?
It's always good to see Ed. So
I believe you made him blush. I believe you made blush.
I may have. I'm fixing to make him blush even more, probably. You know, I got a phone call, I received a phone call, I should say, a couple weeks ago from another city manager from another county who has an employee that worked for them from Putnam County going through some difficult times. Their parents were. I reached out to Ed to see what type of help we could get, as well as Laura Berardi. And in about 15 minutes from Laura, I got a page-and-a-half list of resources that we could assist the family with. And I think I reached out to Ed about 9:40 that morning. At 11:15, I got a text back that he was already en route with needs. Ed, thank you on behalf of that family. So, from what I understand, it was a huge difference. So, personally, from me to you, thank you this morning. So, you know, and secondly, I'm going to take another shameless plug here and wish my daughter-in-law a happy birthday today. I understand she actually might watch it on YouTube this morning to see what we do, so I just want to tell Jessica, happy birthday, sweetheart. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Suggs. Under Commissioner comments, I think I'll go first this morning. We got a proposal from ETM, which is the engineer, no, they're not engineers, they're planners.
Correct.
ETM, and they made a proposal to the county for, I believe it was $28,000 to do the changes that we requested in the land development code. We had $270,000 or so in that line item, and so we retained their services to start the changes in the land development code that we've been talking about. So this being started as we speak. That was a very good thing when they decided that they would entertain this, because originally they didn't feel they could. And then the scope was smaller, and they didn't think it created a conflict of interest for them to do the smaller scope of work. So anyhow, once their findings are done, it will be brought to the board for approval when it gets done. So that's all I had this morning. Commissioner Adams, Act.
Yeah, I guess just piggybacking off of Mr. Suggs, people like Ed, people like Dr. Rush, people like the Melrose Patriots, people like everybody in this community help out whenever the need is there, even if there is differences. So I will say that. I've seen that in Melrose. I've seen that throughout this community. I was late today because my wife was in the hospital last night. I got home around 4:35 a.m. I don't even know what time it was. Slept for a couple hours, woke up, got here. The outpouring from the community when I put out a simple post just saying, hey, pray for my wife, was amazing. And I've seen that for hundreds and thousands of individuals throughout this community. And if you look through the names that are on that outpouring, sometimes it's people you think that hate you, and sometimes you know it's people that love you. And that's the amazing thing about this community, is when people need stuff, everyone comes together. And it doesn't matter what your party background is, what your color, your race, what your religion is. People come together in this community, and I really appreciate that more than anyone can understand. So I just want to acknowledge everyone out there that thank you for your prayers for my wife, and thank you for people like Ed and everyone else that does things for individuals and for different groups within this community.
Commissioner Harvey.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I do want to shout out to my mother-in-law who turned 90 last week. What a remarkable life she's had. She was born in the orange groves of Manville, across the lake from where she lives now, and her father was a paymaster for the telegraph. So as I was speaking last week, and I'll mention that in a minute, in Orlando, having her understand that the TV is not a TV anymore, and the phone is not a phone, it's a computer with an app, is foreign to her, but she's had a really great life. I do want to give kudos to Matt Reynolds, the financial book that you did. Immediately took it over to my mother-in-law, who's 90, who read it, and just wanted me to tell you how fascinated she was with it, and how much information, and how at a level where she could understand it very simply. And she wanted me to pass that on to you. Do want to give kudos to Representative Payne for the Farm Share Program. It was an honor to work over there with Commissioner Wilkinson. And let me assure you that it felt like I was at home. Do this, do that. You don't have time for that. Let's move. We got time for that after it's over with. Nothing wrong with being in charge, and I'm used to that with a wife and 3 daughters and a mother-in-law. But it was we had a mission to fulfill. We had a goal, and we accomplished that goal by getting a lot of families. I don't know how many families we finally fed, but it was the fairground parking lot was full of cars of people that really, really needed food, and it just blesses your heart to have the ability, number one, to say a prayer over them before they got there, and then to be able to fulfill their needs. As Commissioner Adams said, it was just a blessing for that. And last week, I did go to the Broadband Summit that was put on by the Department of Commerce now, not Economic Development anymore. And I was able to represent Putnam County as a speaker at that broadband and tell the rest of the audience what happens in rural Florida as our phone drops, as our computers buffer, as we don't have internet service in some areas, and how important it is. And people look at you like you've got a third eye when you mention that. But truly, broadband is coming. There's a lot of money being spent throughout the state of Florida. There's a lot of money coming to Putnam County. And I had the opportunity to sit down with Director Alex Kelly of the Department of Commerce and Meredith Ivy, who's also the Undersecretary, and was able to share with them a very easy proposal to reach out to the local technology planning teams with a webinar on this new BEAD program, and that's going to be happening very soon. So it's exciting that I was invited. It was exciting that I was able to promote Putnam County, and a lot of people look at you in the audience like, where are you from? But you're able to tell them you're right in the hub of many great counties, and we're a great county also ourselves. So I appreciate that opportunity. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Adams, did you have something else to add?
Yeah, I apologize. I missed something in my notes. So one thing that I've gotten a lot of feedback on is our MSVUs in West Putnam. I don't really know a lot about the ones in the other areas of the county. But I will say this, thank you, Tony. I've been getting a lot of feedback that, side roads that traditionally maybe got hit every 5th time they came out there are getting hit every time. So people are very appreciative that their road is actually getting hit now. And the grading is better. And, you still get the complaints when it actually has a downpour and something breaks or something floods out or something, but we usually get out there and fix them now. So I just want to give that feedback too, because I have been getting positive. At Hitchcock's, I had 3 people come up to me in the 10 minutes I was in there. And then I was at a birthday party for some kids, and same thing, several people, it was right in one of my MSBUs, and several people came over and were like, hey, these roads are so much better than they have been in the past, and we really appreciate it. And they even appreciate the garbage pickup, but I actually think a lot of that's the community members being more prideful that their roads are better, or actually doing a better job of cleaning up the neighborhoods, because I don't think our MSPU contractor really goes out and picks up the garbage to the level they're talking about. So, but yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
Mr. Pickens.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Turner. My comments are pretty much personal comments. Last week was probably one of the best weeks of mine and my wife Holly's. Monday we celebrated our oldest granddaughter's 5th birthday, and Tuesday we celebrated our 63rd 36th wedding anniversary, which is special. I had a lot of people didn't think I'd make it 36 months, let alone 36 years. But it's been great. And on Friday, we were able to go to Isabella's school in Ocala for Grandparents' Day, which was absolutely fantastic to see the excitement of all the children when their grandparents came in. So they sang us a song, and we were able to go outside in a pavilion and have some cookies and drinks. And then we went to Disney World. So anyway, Disney World is still expensive. But I tell you, the Saturday morning, we were able to take the shuttle bus to the Magic Kingdom, and then we took the boat ride over to the kingdom. And to see the excitement of the opening of the day in front of Cinderella's castle for a 5-year-old little girl was priceless. We also have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and she was there too, along with my son Ian and his wife Shanae, and then Bobby, our youngest son, and his girlfriend Victoria. But it was really a magical day. I can say that I have seen more people that day that I want to see the rest of the year. But it absolutely was a wonderful week, and thank you for letting me share that with you. Thank you.
Mr. Wilkinson.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Harvey, for mentioning Farm Share and participating with us. I think we fed about 350 families that came through the line, and it certainly touches your heart when you see people coming through the line and there's tears running down their face. And we had about 5 or 6 of that happened, and then the amount of people that were elderly certainly shakes you a little bit when you see that need in the community. But lots of things happening in Putnam County that are good, and that was just one of many, like Commissioner Adamsack mentioned. Also, at the last meeting, I mentioned the animal control facility and what they had done during the hurricane, but I also wanted to thank the anonymous donor who paid for the adoption fees for the month of August. I believe we were able to adopt out about 60 animals, and that's in addition to the hundreds, 60. Yep, in 1 month, they adopted out about 60 animals, and then that's in addition to the hundreds that get pulled for rescue. And so I'm thankful for them, for Ms. Tillman and her crew, and certainly the person who paid those adoption fees. That was wonderful. And then I wanted to mention real quick that I have had discussions, and Madam, want to put you clerk of court on discussion, but I did have discussions with Clerk of Court Matt Reynolds regarding lighting up the courthouse lawn and the courthouse during Christmas. I think it's very important. I would like to see that. We need to bring some positive light to the courthouse. It's the center of downtown, and while the city does their own lighting, adding some lights to the courthouse would be amazing. It could be the beginning of something like we see in St. Augustine, but at a smaller scale, where people, flock to downtown to look at lights and see what's just drive through for the kids. I mean, I have grandkids, and they love to see that kind of stuff. So I have asked Mr. Reynolds to look into what that would cost. I think it would be minimal for the amount of positive energy it would bring to the downtown area. And I just wanted to mention that to you and thank him for at least considering it. And then I'm sure we'll see something maybe in the future coming forward on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Like we've discussed before, it's something that we went and got a preliminary quote on to see how much it was going to cost, and those figures came back, and as we've discussed before, I think that it was quite a bit too high, but we're working now on trying to look at, obviously, getting the most bang for the buck, but we're also going to reach out to the private business groups, entities like, One Putnam, Visit Palaca, those sort of groups that may be interested in partnering with us to help down there so that it looks good during the parade. So we're actively working on that now, and we'll be certainly bringing more information back to the board as soon as I can get it.
Yeah, well, it's certainly good to think outside the box sometimes and bring in those, private, public partnerships, and this would be a great example of that. And then, maybe some churches would want to come down during the Christmas holidays and have caroling on the courthouse lawn, or any kind of activities that they want to have. I think it's just, again, something positive for downtown and for the county as well. And before I close, Commissioner Turner, could you explain to me a little bit about, you said that there was a $28,000 for the land development code for ETM. That's going to include the family lot split, I'm sure.
Is that on the list, Julianne?
You know, I'm not giving up on that.
Oh, I understand. If it's not, it will be now.
Okay, all right, very good. And I guess those charges are something that the county administrator gets to approve, is that right? Because I don't, the $28,000 you mentioned.
Well, the money's already in the bank and been approved, and it's in the line item, so it can be up to 65.
Okay.
With the administrator and the chairman on board.
Okay.
He can do up to 25 by himself.
Okay, I just wanted clarity on that.
As long as the money's in the fund already. He can't change, none of us can change money into the budget. It has to already be there.
Okay. I just wanted that clarity. Thank you, that's all my comments, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Adams, do you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what Leota was saying with the clerk of courts. I was just visualizing something when you were talking about that. So, I mean, we have that lawn there. What if we didn't have the county do anything or the court do anything but supply electricity possibly, and have it where we have different groups set up maybe they even give a donation to do like a 10 by 10 spot and have a walking kind of display or something, just an idea. Just for both of you or for everybody. That's just something that popped in my head. I thought would be cool on that. Come off the sidewalk, walk through there, and then come out the other side.
And my personal vision for it was the more that we can get community involved, get community groups, private entities involved, and everybody to take ownership in it, the better it will be. So absolutely, that's a great idea.
Just food for thought.
Yep, thank you.
I think it'd be a good project for us to participate in on some level, I really do, especially if you can get all the people involved like Paul just said, or Commissioner Adams just said. One thing you said, Commissioner Wilkinson, you said that somebody had donated adoption fees for a month, and it really helped a lot in, would it help if I know that back when Commissioner Lible was commissioner years ago, we would waive adoption fees for a certain amount of time, like for a 2-week period or for a 1-month period, and then they would have adoption events, usually down across from the old Libel's gas station on the corner right there by the judge's office, and basically for $5 or something, you could come down and pick a dog out that day. Is that something that you think we should look at again, maybe? I don't believe we should just waive them forever, because if we do, nobody will come get them then because there's not a special time. But do you think we should discuss just completely waiving the adoption fees to help with capacity?
Yeah, I absolutely believe that would be a great initiative. Commissioner Wilkinson we're still working with her on an adoption event that's going to come up. And if the board would be willing to waive adoption fees for that month, really, because people come by and they think on it or something. So I don't want to make it limited to that particular day. But if we could correlate it to that time period.
You want a motion or just waive an approval?
We'll be bringing it back to you, but you can waive an approval would be fine for that month.
I would be very surprised if you had any problems with getting that done from this board, to get the adoption fee waived during Commissioner Wilkinson's adoption event. Yes, sir.
When Commissioner Lible did that, I would take my cooker down and we would cook hot dogs and stuff. So
Consider yourself signed up.
I'm willing to do whatever, because I tell you, it really, when people came in, they got a hot dog, they were able to interact with their pet, and we sent them home with a bag of dog food too, or cat food, whatever.
We
it
can
was.
work something out for sure.
There was a lot of good publicity done out of that, and we moved a lot of animals into loving homes, so.
Well, I think you'll get whatever support you need out of us for that event. So.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody have anything else to add? I'm going to recess the meeting of the Board of County Commissioners until 5:05 when we have a public hearing.